Every major tournament arrives expecting an upset. A heavy favorite steps onto the pitch expecting a routine victory, and instead encounters a wall. That was the reality facing reigning European champions Spain in Atlanta as they opened their Group H World Cup campaign against tournament debutants Cape Verde. This chart maps the sheer scale of the mismatch. Spain entered the contest ranked number 2 in the world by FIFA. Cape Verde sat 65 places below them, 67th, arriving as the third smallest country by population to ever qualify for a World Cup. 90 minutes later, the whistle blew on a goalless 0-0 draw. To hold Spain to 0 goals, Cape Verde implemented a specific defensive structure designed to deny space in the most high-traffic areas of the pitch. At its core, defending against a possession-dominant side is a geometric problem. The defending team must protect a pitch measuring 105 by 68 meters. Spain's default methodology is designed to exploit those exact dimensions. They rely on patient build-up play, circulating the ball to stretch the opposition, throw defenders out of position, and attack the spaces left behind. Cape Verde countered this strategy by deploying 2 rigid defensive lines deep in their own half. Cape Verde used this disciplined structural approach to limit Spain's movement, shrinking the pitch's usable space. This top-down tactical diagram shows Spain's offensive perimeter pressing high. Overlaying Cape Verde's defensive shape, 2 rows of players shift horizontally in unison with the ball's circulation, never breaking their compact structure. The compressed space between these lines forms the primary denial zone. By shrinking this interior space, Cape Verde choked off Spain's central passing lanes. The attacking team is forced to abandon central penetration and cycle the ball into wide, low-threat areas. This structure demands absolute collective discipline. A single defender stepping forward to chase the ball immediately expands the denial zone and compromises the entire system. Spain continually probed for these central fractures, primarily trying to utilize Mikel Oyarzabal to break the interior lines, but the lines held. In the closing moments, defender Roberto Lopez stepped across to perfectly execute a block on Oyarzabal, preserving the defensive integrity. The success of a low block is defined entirely by this dynamic. You force the opponent to perpetually play around your structure, ensuring they can never play through it. Looking at this shot map creates an apparent contradiction. If Cape Verde's geometry was so effective, why did Spain manage 27 total shots? The answer is the difference between shot volume and quality. A deep block concedes exterior shots while heavily contesting attempts inside the penalty area. When we filter the data, the inefficiency becomes clear. Only 7 were actually on target. The intense physical pressure applied inside the box meant that whenever Spain did shoot, the attacker was almost always rushed, off balance, or heavily contested. Ferran Torres illustrates the friction caused by this spatial crowding. In the first half, Torres found Spain's best opening of the match, connecting with Marc Cucurella's header back across the 6-yard box. But under immediate, heavy pressure from the converging defenders and the goalkeeper, Torres lost his balance and timing, sending his attempt off the crossbar. Cape Verde's objective was never to prevent Spain from shooting entirely. The goal was to mathematically degrade the probability of any single shot crossing the goal line. Even the most disciplined 2-line system has an inherent vulnerability. Over a 90-minute match against elite passers, defensive breaches are mathematically inevitable. When the structure breaks down, the goalkeeper becomes the high-variance failsafe. For Cape Verde, that burden fell to 40-year-old veteran Vozinha. Playing a deep block invites crosses, requiring the keeper to aggressively come off his line to collect the ball and relieve the accumulating pressure. The system faced its most severe test just before halftime, as Spain finally managed to bypass the rigid blue lines and threaten the net directly. Vozinha stepped up with critical point-blank shot stopping, producing vital saves to deny Aymeric Laporte and Torres in quick succession. A proactive goalkeeper provides a specific psychological anchor. It allows the defensive outfielders to maintain their deep position without panicking, knowing the space behind them is secure. The emotional weight of that responsibility was visible at the final whistle, with Vozinha nearly in tears as his teammates mobbed him. Elite goalkeeping provides the necessary support for the defensive lines, neutralizing the high-quality chances that eventually leak through the structure. Recognizing they could not pass their way through the block, Spain's late-game strategy shifted. They abandoned patient buildup in favor of individual disruption. They turned to their bench,
introducing teenager Lamine Yamal as a second-half substitute to inject pace and unpredictability into the attack. It was a desperate lever to pull, especially considering Yamal was making his World Cup debut following an 8-week recovery from a hamstring injury. Spain paired him with fellow winger Nico Williams, pushing aggressive individual talent out wide. Yet the structural lock held. Supreme tactical discipline, when executed perfectly as a collective unit, can completely nullify even the highest level of individual attacking talent. The implications of this draw are enormous. Securing a point against a tournament favorite gives the Blue Sharks the mathematical foundation and the confidence to become the first African debutant to reach the last 32 since Ghana in 2006. For Spain, a stuttering start requires immediate adjustment, but they are no strangers to opening match disappointment. They suffered a 1-0 defeat to Switzerland in their 2010 opener, only to recover and ultimately lift the trophy a month later. More recently, Argentina endured a shock loss to Saudi Arabia in their first match of the 2022 campaign, before adapting their strategy and winning their third world title. Opening match anomalies do not dictate final outcomes, but to survive the rest of this tournament, Spain must develop strategies to penetrate the compact, multi-layered defensive lines that Cape Verde just showcased to the rest of the world.